All right, guys, it looks like California is going full retard with the riots right now. And what most people aren't quite grasping is the fact that something more is going on behind the scenes. Most people think that they just react to the news, like they see this stuff going on. They're like, oh, those damn Democrats or whatever's going on, or oh, these illegal aliens, we need to get them all out of here. Whatever pre-programmed Fox News or CNN mindset is going on, people immediately kick into this and they don't see the third window. They don't see the third side to this. So today we're going to dive into from our intel report. This is Dan Collier from the intelligence agency, and we have a report that has come out, running it through our special Echo 8 war room computer, which analyzes all of this for the third side, the side that people never get told in the media. So let's start taking a look here so you guys can understand what's going on. After this, I'm going to let you know how you can get this information, the full story on these things, later on after I cover this section, and also how you can get access to the actual reports to check for yourself. So if you hear noise in the background and stuff like that today, the family is home. We have a toddler, so just you guys know how that goes. So California riots, there is a hidden agenda. There's escalation going on in California. There's violent clashes going on. Here's where you can start to pick up on the stuff that you aren't being told. Molotov cocktails. That is not a normal thing that just walks out of somebody's house when they're just mad about something or there's police and other things involved. That's usually the sign of some kind of stage stuff or agitators. Freeway blockages are not usually spontaneous. It takes a lot of people to get together and say, hey, let's risk our life. These kinds of events require coordination, and we know how that goes. We've finally started to figure out somebody, big money, agencies, other countries funnel money in through these little secret subcells where they can't be tracked to it, and they give money and start these riots, hide stuff. You know, everybody always likes to blame China. Nobody looks at the real enemy that could be behind all of this. So Molotov cocktails usually indicate organized violence, not just some people who are angry. Like if something made you mad right now and you decide, you know what, I'm mad. You might be able to call up 3 friends and one of them be radical enough to go somewhere. But who's getting thousands of people all riled up at one time, organized, paid for groups? This stuff does not just randomly happen. So get it in your mind when you see this stuff on the news wants to get you agitated yourself, get you all riled up, and support, without thinking, support some agenda that the people who paid for these riots, who agitated these people, set up. So Molotov cocktails are an example. It's not something the average person has, a bunch of glass bottles lying around in their house, that sort of thing. You don't have that stuff, you know. Then the media amplification is the next thing. It is a sign. So we run this through the computer. The computer has pre-programmed things in it to recognize psyops and to also recognize the formula for controlled events and media coverage, and then it analyzes the words and phrases of these things. So media amplification, the role here is crucial because now it's focusing on the violence and the federal response. They're shaping the narrative to fit a specific agenda. So this isn't about reporting the truth. It's about a controlled perception. Hey there, Miss McGillicuddy. Nice to see you on here. It's divide and conquer. You're exactly right. So here we're looking at federal troop deployment. Now, sometimes, you can get over responded to this stuff, especially. So you get one side, you get the liberal side where they've all been trained in a certain type of thinking. A lot of times it's a Marxist thinking. And then you get the conservative side, which is more, I used to be ultra conservative in the fact that I was, ultra Republican. I am no longer Republican at all because I believe both sides have kind of been taken over. I'm more libertarian, conservative libertarian, not liberal like, hey, do what you want, right? So when federal troops start to get deployed and you have escalating violence, sometimes you can look at this scenario. The same people that want to deploy the troops are the ones organizing all the chaos and craziness. Why? What's the end game? So they're looking at deploying about 2,000 National Guard troops and 500 Marines. That's pretty significant. Armed troops. That's pretty significant amount of people coming out. Besides having, I mean, the police force in itself, like it or not, is a military organization now, all specced out in with military trucks and things like that. Never should have happened. Never should have happened. That's part of totalitarian and fear-based control stuff. So federal government is flexing its muscles now. And then the state is saying, hey, look, shift back from this. The state is pushing back, and I don't blame the state. We have federal government is to be a representation of all the people, and the states are supposed to be sovereign and have the most say over their particular state, because those are the people living there and producing all the goods and working the streets and taking out the garbage, and running all this stuff. And we're talking about the states and the governors should not be under the thumb of the federal government. That's the last thing our Constitution and stuff was about. Like I said, despite what's going on, California is California. And unless they have been taken over by a foreign government, and I believe our federal government has been taken over by a foreign government, not just the states. So I believe California gets to make some decisions about stuff, unless California is doing something that would harm the entire nation. And that's when federal government kicks in. So we have federal versus state authority, and now there's a clash. Of course, the news is eating this up. Martial law playbook is coming out now, and federal troops under the guise of restoring order is reminiscent of scenarios described in psychological warfare manuals. Now get this, most of you have never read these. You don't understand this. It is part of a playbook. So what you're watching taking place, according to our computer, running the scenarios and the playbooks, you're looking at a scenario that is not just happening on its own. Look, thousands and thousands of Americans seeing this know this, but a majority don't get it. They're under the Fox News, they're under the CNN matrix, right? So we got a lot of weird stuff going on, and the Epstein stuff is becoming more and more and more of a push, right? Americans are getting grumpy about the Epstein stuff being hidden. And now Musk rolls out and says, either in a retaliatory thing, I'm not quite sure, but looks like some kind of business deal got rolled out and he got pushed under the bus. And so he was like, you know what? Let me just tweet this out about Trump just to show, as being one of the richest guys in the world, I have some muscle too. You're not just going to push me around. I know some secrets. And of course, I don't care who you are. I want to know if what Musk said is true. There's plenty of people who can run the country if something bad is going on, because we're never going to be free of all of this crazy stuff going on in our country if we have a bunch of weirdos and if people will hurt kids, they will do anything to the American public. All right, so now we have a political blame game that starts taking place. We've got the martial law playbook rolling out, right, according to the books. And all these, let me take a look here. We got a comment, distraction, civil order. So, yeah, I mean, everything. So when we're talking about, remember all the stuff about the tunnels and things that were going on earlier? And then that just disappeared somehow with all. So the media will roll out, always rolling out new catastrophic things to cover up other stuff. California riots, probably were agitated, probably were created, manufactured by whatever means, and then to hide. And these people, I just ran a report yesterday through the computer and doing research. These people will do anything to cover up stuff going on in the world, or not being found on the P. Diddy or the Epstein list. They'll sacrifice anything, start a war, create riots, anything to take your mind off of what's going on. All of that is probably, California could even be a all right, let me pause for a second. When these things happen, these people work on multiple layers. So they sit down in a group, and they'll think, okay, we need to get X, Y, and Z done to take people's minds off of this, cover up this. So a riot in California, you don't think like these people do. They think on multiple layers on how to, they've had playbooks and different things, Babylonian systems on controlling people. They've had all of this for a couple thousand years, and their parents teach them, and then they learn in groups, and that's all they got to worry about. They got plenty of money. All they got to do is sit around and make sure they keep control. This is stuff that kings and queens have been doing for hundreds of years, and it's nothing. You don't think like this at all, but this is why we have an intelligence agencies and these reports, so that you can at least think for yourself and not remain a stooge to the media, because they use Edward Bernays tactics to control societies with the news. And, so anyway, so we got a political blame game that's going to start happening now, because of course you have when you're looking at Republican and Democrat, you're looking at basically two different sets of organizations of it's not political when it gets to that level. These are corporations, whether it's tech companies that want to accomplish a certain thing and make more money and get more control of people. So they might support a liberal candidate because they're more likely to be along that line. And then you have other corporations, maybe it's big oil and stuff like that might represent, tobacco and oil, and represent more conservative side. So they want that candidate in to get stuff done. But mostly, and then the public is getting sold some other smokescreen about what it's really all about. What you want in life, so that you can make better decisions, is to be able to think for yourself about how this structure works, because they don't teach it to us in school, and the media keeps you too busy or too distracted or too busy, too entangled in life to figure this out. That's why we have an intelligence agency. And let me tell you, the people who get these reports and stuff, they're like, what? I never thought of that before. And then it just seems like common sense after that. It's like, yeah, well, that's what's going on. All right. So the key observation that's going on here, this is a 4-page report, gets more in depth. I can't talk about on this, you guys understand, you know how these platforms work. I can't talk about the deeper side of some of this stuff that's going on. So one, because some people can't handle it. And two, you wouldn't get to hear about it anymore. So their manufacturing division. So this isn't about solving problems. When you're hearing this, like when it comes to the news, the news has us trapped in this thing where we think one day we're going to turn on the news and somebody's going to solve a problem. That's not what the news is there for. The news, this type of news, who owns it? You should look up who owns the news, and you'll start figuring out what the problem is. The news is to constantly keep you in a state of fear and anxiety and low vibration. This causes people to be more controllable. It puts you in a state of learned helplessness. All right. Once you figure that out about the news, you wonder why you go on vacation and you don't watch the news for a few days, and you're like, gosh, I'm so relaxed. And If you go back and look at the news from 1970s, it looks like now. It looks like now the same stuff. Some war is going on somewhere, some candidate this, some other thing you're worried about. It was just the society itself, you and me people, were more moral. And we know that they got control and caused what's happening to us now is because they got to the church and they started to teach the church to align with the very people orchestrating all the chaos and downfall of countries for nearly 600 years now. The same perpetrators have moved from country to country, causing their downfall until the people woke up and kicked them out. So their manufacturing division, it's not about solving problems. It's about deepening the divide between conservatives and liberals, which is really which corporations get to run something and get in control of stuff. And each side is being manipulated to see the other as an enemy. We see that, and that's part of divide and conquer, correct? They run everything. Remember the old saying in the United States where they would say, united we stand, divided we fall? When's the last time you've heard that? When is the last time you've heard? I remember that was a big deal. Those statements and stuff, even songs would have that line in it. You don't hear that sign. You don't hear that anymore. United we stand. They don't want that. They want divided. The people, we do. We want united. But since 1948 onward, figure out what happened in 1948. Since that time onward, this country has fell into more observable destruction, mirroring pre-World War II Germany, the Weimar Republic, and what was happening there with the debauchery, the pornography, the banks, all of the problems that were going on. Here is something, let me lay this out for you here because I think it's important for you to understand. Ukraine and small Middle Eastern country are very tied together. Their president and money laundering and where money goes, transferring back and forth to this Middle Eastern country, very tied together. Here is why the Ukraine war took place. They're not telling you why United States aligned with Ukraine. And you can look at this with Russia, with Germany, what happened to Germany. Now we know in Russia, 60 million Christians were killed, starved, things like that, put in gulags due to a takeover by a certain group of people who have taken over America. 60 million people died for that takeover to take place. Okay. Then Germany falls into the same type of position that America, debauchery, porn stuff, rising inflation, crazy things happening. And then it pushed Germany to the point where they were like, hey, now communism through the same people is moving into Germany. And we have to do something to protect our people from another 20 million people dying because just like in America, we see this liberal communist Marxist movement on the rise places, right? Nearly half the country kind of falls in this mindset. This is what was recognized in Germany, and they had to react just like hundreds of other countries before them had to react to prevent the mass death. We're talking millions. 20 million would have died had they got in power because they observed 60 million die in Russia. We're looking at the same scenario now. Russia was free from communism, right? And then Putin kicked out the bankers, the banksters, the whole banking clan, the same banksters that controlled control America now. Russia kicked them out. And the deal that was made is they couldn't set up any shop or do anything, even getting close to Russia. What did they start doing? They started moving into the Ukraine. They started moving closer, and they were violating the agreement. Russia kicked them out. So this is what started. Putin's like, you're not going to take back over. We're not going to have the banksters come back in, and then communism and these sorts of things start moving back into Russia and having all this chaos start again. Few people know this, just so you know that this is a fact of how this went. So pre-World War II, Germany kicked the bankers out. They declared war, international war on Germany long before the war ever took place. They declared war on Germany, but Germans overcame all of that. They went from the worst economy to the best economy almost in the world in a matter of a few years. Now, few people know that Japan kicked the bankers out too during the same time that Germany kicked them out. And how do you think Japan ended up in the war? Japan didn't want to get into the war, but the same banking clans that declared war through trade and all the other different ways they have to cause a country to suffer, used the United States to start cutting off supplies and trade and different things to Japan, which forced them into a war. The banksters forced World War II. Hitler didn't start World War II. He didn't want a war. He was like a vegan animal lover person. But he was also a war hero. He knew what terrible things could happen, but he tried to avoid it. And you can go into the history books and find all that. It was the banksters who caused Japan to get into the war, forced them, caused Americans didn't want to get in that war. Guess who was man of the year a couple years before he was the most hated man in America? Guess who? Guy from Germany, right? Someone ran a propaganda campaign to cause all of this to happen. I think you guys are starting to get the cycle of things that are happening, and I can't say it on here, but you can tie it all together. All right, so that's all I wanted to do going over the riots in California. The next thing I want to tell you about is the intelligence agency. So I need to tell you about this because I've done over 200 videos now on this channel, and now I want to start offering you guys the ability. So before everything was just a very private club. I want to start offering the ability for you guys to know the inside of all these things. So these reports that I do and stuff, all these videos I've done, I cannot cover all. The channel is already squashed as it is. I cannot cover all of these things. So we are opening up the intelligence agency to everyone. Now, before you say, "Whoa, $5, $5 a month," your contribution is going to go to helping us fund anti-Christian movements as well as anti-conservative movements. And for that, we're going to let you have the complete intel reports, the inside videos. And so the intelligence agency covers everything. I don't know if this is going to show up on here. I have this book as well that I wrote that goes into like King Solomon mindset of training people to get out of the mindset that happened to all of us, right? We were all put under a certain mindset from school, not to think like these controlling elite do, not to think like entrepreneurs, or not to think how to get out of this position we're in. And so on the intelligence agency reveals health secrets that could take you 10 years to try to look up somewhere. It's already been done. It's 30 years of information placed inside of the intelligence agency. Things about health, secret stuff involving diseases. You can go back and look at. So we had a report. Let me dance around this here. We had a report from 2020 when they rolled out the official the official thing that happened in 2020 with all the medical stuff and these. We had a report that came out within 2 weeks where we ran the computer, the whole scenario, went through it, and pulled up that just like this, pulled up the fact that all of this stuff had already been in movies. They had been running a psychological program since the 80s, running the same exact scenarios. It's called preemptive programming to get everybody associated. This is so in the book. So you get these books free too when you join. In the book, Reason to Believe, I exhaustively go through and prove beyond a reasonable doubt how they structure things years in advance to get the minds of people already. You don't even know it's happening. It's in your subconscious, to get the minds of people preemptively ready for something they've planned out 40, 50 years in advance. And when it's ready, you're already subconsciously programmed to give into it. Or they've structured in fear things where they, in that movie, in that book, they have all these police and military and stuff come rolling out and these and just take over everybody and scare everyone. And you don't want to just right, like Minority Report stuff. So that's all included in this when you join. It's not information. The internet is flooded, and YouTube and all these things is full of information, and information is for entertainment. This is intel. All right. And intel is the things that keep you alive. Intel is something that says it may not be a good idea to put this in your arm. Right. That's what intel does for you. So that intel report showed, without a doubt, you would have read this intel report and went, the first 2 weeks, this is a hoax. That's what you would have said. And I am not doing what they say to do. That's how important intel is. So having that protected a lot of people during that time. So this is why the intel agency, and I'm going to leave a link somewhere. Let me see if I can leave this. Do I have this here? Yeah. Okay. I want to post a link in the comments if you guys want to check it out. Like I say, right now we're running a membership drive on this for you guys. $5 to join. I mean, before as someone giving intel to groups, working with people, $50,000 a year, I would consult to help people, businesses or something, understand where things are going or what might be happening in the world that might affect their business or something. So anyway, we're rolling this out. $5, you can join and get the intel. Now there's a second layer to this, and this was only to this was only to a small group of people. It's called the High Command, and the High Command lets you use the computer yourself to ask it questions and get intel reports on the subject you want. And that's vital. That's vital. So every time the news rolls out something, let's say like the LA riots or something at the time, or some new thing comes out, Epstein stuff, something that would affect you every single day, or your emotions or something, or your health, and they roll out something, you're able to use that to analyze that situation. So that's the High Command. That's just an extra thing that you can use to protect yourself. So anyway, that is what the intel agency is all about. These reports, the information that we do is free to the public, but it's different to be on the inside and get the full report. Just personally, me, I'm one of those people. I cannot stand for some little witch somewhere to be sitting behind a computer or writing a news article. I don't know. Did you guys see the video I did yesterday where I showed from 1990, I showed these guys from CNN. They were pretending they were in Saudi Arabia, right? They're pretending they're from Saudi Arabia during the beginning of the Gulf War. And they were on a stage in Atlanta smoking cigarettes and drinking beer, but they were filming on a stage pretending They were in Saudi Arabia with bombs going over, but the full video got released. And so, but that was serious business. I mean, people were watching that. It was causing people to want to join the military because of what they were all angry. And here some dudes are on a stage joking around, smoking cigarettes and drinking beer and making a joke. They were making a joke of the fact that they were actually in Saudi Arabia and bombs were going off. And the video, so you can go back and watch that. It'll be on the channel. It's so ridiculous. But to see what these guys are doing, how nefarious these actors are, and they have to cause somebody, people died because of that video. People volunteered for the military. People went in and sacrificed their lives because of that. And it was a joke. And they were making a joke. And they published it and put it on the news. That's how far the news will go in these scenarios. Sickening, right? But see, that's why I'm trying to help you guys break out of the mindset. Most of you watching this already get it. Here's another thing that's very helpful. So not only did these news articles and these intel reports, everybody has a friend who's like that skeptic, or a parent or somebody that they're like, you just desperately want them to get it, but you just can't explain it on your own, or you try to give them information. They're like, oh, that's kooky stuff. That's conspiracy stuff. What we put out is intel reports. It's different than information. It's different than a news article. These are intel reports. They are very difficult for people to be skeptics and dismiss. You understand? We're talking about running. We use information that has been used by high-level intellectual organizations to overthrow governments and stuff like that. They've used the same type of tactics. We use that within these computers to run scenarios and spit out what's happening within whatever strange thing they deny. It's then difficult for these skeptical people, although they can still do it, but it's very difficult at that point in time. It's enough to start waking up a family member. It's enough to start waking up a friend, or let's say you just want to share this stuff on social media and wake up some people. Well, you can use it for that. All right. So that's why it's important as well, because so many of you have a big heart. You've probably shared 1 million, memes on Facebook and different places like that. Nobody's listening. You got the same group of 5 people who are like, oh yeah, hoop-de-doo, I care. But mostly nobody's really hearing. We're talking about high-level grade intel reports into things. Okay, so that's the intelligence agency. It's not just stuff about the news. It's stuff about life. All the important aspects of life that they lied to us about. Health, they've definitely lied to us about that. Christians right now are just as sick, just as many heart attacks, just as many things going on, just as many medications as everybody else in the world, everybody else in America. They fib to us about stuff. Church ain't helping. The news, they're lying to us and creating anxiety every single day. You have no idea. Once you're in here, you can learn how much stress the news puts on our psyche. These things that come out and that's why they make sure when you go to a restaurant, now, do you ever remember back in the day, it might have been one TV somewhere over in the corner, some black and white TV. Now they make sure that you're surrounded by televisions. I remember when Obama was in office, you could not go anywhere where you didn't have to look at his face on the television. That's propaganda, guys. That's psychological warfare. All right. So we want to make sure that you guys are the safest you can be, that every aspect of your life, from spiritual, like take hidden history. It is, you might think this is crazy, but there's good intellectual knowledge now. I've done a lot of videos on hidden history. Something isn't right about our history in America. Am I right? You guys leave a comment if I'm right. There are all of these buildings that make 0 sense how they were built. 0 sense. There's no way they were built back in the day with shovels and all of that. So that's part of hidden history. You need to know your hidden history in order for you to know what's going on now in the world. All right. Anyway, I don't want to keep you guys too long today. Go to that link and check out the Intel agency. Let me know if you want to get and use the computer yourself. All right. Not everybody wants to do that. A lot of people just want the Intel and they want to get the reports. You get one special report a week plus other things, plus videos. Sometimes we'll do a webinar and a group meeting private where people can jump on and make comments, but you're not making comments on YouTube, where stuff might get you in trouble. It's just us. Okay. And we have ties to people who have a lot of knowledge. Some of them don't want to do. Some of these guys own businesses that still deal with agencies, and they don't want to come on and do videos live because it might compromise their positions or protective things that they do. I'll still work on them and see if we can do some videos. If you'd like that, you can leave a comment too and tell me if you'd like to bring on some of my old SEAL team buddies and stuff like that who I used to hang out with, and see if they're interested in coming on and talking. But I don't want to get them in trouble for stuff. Some of them have some important businesses and things they do, but they can share some pretty good insight on things as well. So anyway, we're running on 40 minutes. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know also if you like these things we can get on here, these lives, and sit down and talk and go over the Intel reports. So just to let you know, I'm going to be pushing the intelligence agency because we're doing a membership drive now to get to let you guys get in. You don't have to join. I don't care. It's $5. Okay. I'm not going to miss $5, I'm saying, for you to get started. I'm trying to offer it to you guys so you can get the intel, maybe protect your families and stuff as a service. Okay. So anybody out there is like, $5, what? They'll give me that. All right. I really do want to help you guys. So this is important information. You're never going to hear it anywhere else because you can't, because AI combs the internet. That includes where you're at right now. You would not believe the amount of AI intelligence that I better dance around this. Anyway, everything about this is monitored at levels you wouldn't believe. I got a report inside of the intelligence agency. I got a report there on this and how that works. It's pretty amazing technology, facial recognition, stuff about intentions. It reads your emotional intentions from your face. When I was in college, I had one of the classes I was in, former CIA guy. He taught, one of the professors gave me some books on some things that I was interested in on facial recognition. I mean, there was people who all they did was study people's faces of political leaders to determine the type of personality they had and how they would react to events and stress and read their face. That's a technology. Imagine plugging that into a computer and reading somebody's face and everything that they do, speak, the way they turn, their intentions, whether they're lying or not, whether they intend to do something good or bad. That's some pretty powerful information. And I knew that 30 years ago. Imagine where they've gone with it with technology now. You need to know this information, guys, to protect your family, to at least just know what's going on and realize when, like the whole Elon Musk and Trump thing, I believe Elon Musk was propped up because the conservative Christian type of person does not want any more intrusion, government evasiveness, doesn't want any more of this technology either in your body or scanning you or any of that kind of stuff. So they needed Iron Man to come along as a hero, prop him up, so that now everyone would be like, well, you know, he's a good guy. Maybe I do need a Neuralink. Maybe I do need a chip in my body. Maybe it's not a bad thing. I trust Elon. I think you guys get it. This is why continuously need intel to keep you informed. Not that you don't fully get it, but just as a reminder sometimes that not knowing certain things could be harmful for you. We know that from the medical event that took place a few years ago. Even some of the smartest people I know were having a difficult time with it. They're like, yeah, but maybe it's true. I'm like, no, it's not true. Don't fall for it. Some of them did. Some friend of mine was in the SWAT team, super healthy guy. He got this, and he's had 2 surgeries on his arteries and his heart now. And he knows for a fact that's what it was. He was like, they were going to fire me from the job. And he'd been working, he worked his whole adult life to get where he was. And they threatened him with firing. Anyway, and he did. And now he can't work. And he said, and so that's why you need to know. That's why you need intel, not information. Plenty of guys, plenty of these people rolling out on the internet talking about stuff. Information is entertainment. Intel saves your life. All right. In the comments, I left, for some of you who just came on here, I left a link to the intelligence agency. Check it out. See if you like it. Run it. You can get on for $5. All right. I'm going to tell you that $5, guys. You can get these full reports. Think about that. Less than a cup of coffee right now. And then if you guys want to get in and use the computer yourself, you can talk to me about that afterwards. And that's different. That's more upper level. I mean, you can write, this computer will analyze all of this stuff. It's so good at it. It can write an entire news article for you. It can write an entire video script. Let's say you're in a church who wants to be informed about the spiritual side of all of this stuff going on, right? Let's say you're in a church group and your church wants to stay informed about the things, because you don't have 20 years to try to catch up on all this. The group, us guys in this, 20, 30 years, we put it in conglomerating all of this stuff into this. You guys just want the answers to protect your friends and family. Then if you're an agency, if you're a church or something like that, and you want to use this computer, then let me know about that, because that will help you guys out. But if you just want it for yourself, you want intel and help you out with your business and things like that, knowing what the news is saying and how it affects you, there'll be a link in the comments for that. Well, we've been on long enough. I got to get with my family and get some stuff done. I'll come on tomorrow. And like I say, we're doing a membership push. That's why it's only $5 to join. It was 20. And you can get on now. Why it still lasts. Enjoy it, guys. We'll see you.